I think when I was in the 8th grade, that's when I got hip to the Mexican Mafia through my dad and his associates. And they took me to a doping house, and they said, we're going to test you. And they just said, kill him. When we hold him, he's going to slam, let him go slam. He's going to sit down on the chair. And when you see us get on the side of him and hold his arms, he's not going to suspect you're just a little kid. Jump on his chest with a knife and start whacking him. So I did that, and after that, I think they used me about 2 or 3 more times.
I just took the initiative and I cut his throat on the yard and basically set an example for everybody out there that if you're going to run your mouth about the Nazi lowriders, we're going to try to kill you.
Well, I was asked to put somebody down on the yard because he was in the hat, what they call in the hat when they're in trouble with the Aryan Brotherhood. And I went out in the yard and I stabbed him, and I actually got away with it.
The Department of Corrections has defined gangs into 2 distinct entities. The first entity is that of prison gang. A prison gang is any gang that has its origins or roots in the California Department of Corrections or any other correctional system. The second entity is that of disruptive group, which does not have its origins in the prison system, and are gangs that most law enforcement officials are accustomed to dealing with, such as Crips, Bloods, Norteños, or Sureños. This is important in understanding the distinction of these 2 entities for outside law enforcement. As law enforcement officers, we often think that a gang member is a gang member is a gang member, and that's not the case. In dealing with a disruptive group gang member, he has some loyalties to the gang itself, but oftentimes is not willing to die or sacrifice himself or his family for that gang or that organization. Conversely, a prison gang member is willing to give his life, is willing to sacrifice his family and everything he has and owns for the purpose of that gang or organization. In the state of California, probably the most well-recognized and most powerful prison gang is known as the Mexican Mafia, or La M. The Mexican Mafia formed in Dual Vocational Institute, or DVI, probably around 1957, 1958, for the purpose of protecting Southern Hispanics from other racial entities. Another prison gang recognized by the California Department of Corrections is known as the Aryan Brotherhood, or AB. The AB was formed in the San Quentin State Prison. It has a tenuous alliance with the Mexican Mafia and has known enemies, the Black Guerrilla family and the Nuestra Familia. Another recognized prison gang is that of the Nazi Lowriders, or NLR. Historically, the NLR has been a white prison gang. It was actually started in the California Youth Authority, created a lot of problems for us within the prison system, and were seen as rivals to the Aryan Brotherhood. We don't see that rivalry so much.
As soon as I got here, everything that I had thought about, wanting to be involved with this group, it was intensified. Because now I was in the house of the Brotherhood, which was a brand, and I wanted to be around them, and if they were willing to accept what we as the Nazi lowriders were bringing to the table, then I wanted them to respect us, and I would give them their respect. But if their attitude was like I had heard that, they didn't have any time for us, or they didn't want to pay us our respect, then I was going to actively pursue killing one of them. And shortly after that, we basically brokered a deal with the Aryan Brotherhood to bring the Nazi lowriders under their, in with them. So basically, it would be one entity.
There is a faction of the NLR called the FTB, which stands for Fuck the Brand. Those are relatively small number. But the NLR, our understanding at Pelican Bay is that the NLR has adopted a policy of only recruiting and bringing in new members that are not of a mixed race.
This perception about the racism, it's not really racism whatsoever. It's like in a battle. I mean, if I line up across from you and you're my enemy in a battle, you're my enemy. The reason that it's considered racism is because it just so happens that the people that we're at war with are other races. When you come into the Department of Corrections, automatically the first thing that you're indoctrinated in is you stick with your race and that's it. That's just the California Department of Corrections. That's just the way it is. So I personally have no personal angst towards any minorities. My wife is Mexican and she was my girlfriend when I was a Nazi lowrider. I have no problems against them. The way I looked at it was, if you were a northern Mexican or you were a black, you were my enemy. Not because of your race, but because of the political lines that you've drawn within the Department of Correction. It's all politics. So the race thing, as far as like, you know, dealing with police officers or the general public, that's never been an issue. Yeah. Now, make no mistake, there are hardcore white supremacists involved with our movements. There are guys that would like to do away with having members of our groups that are of mixed race, because there are Nazi lowriders that are Mexican and white. I think there's even one that's like Filipino and white. And there are people that are members that are trying to get that done away with, you know, saying that, you know what, we're not going to have these people involved with us. But the majority of us believe that it's all about where your heart is.
The Nuestra Familia has as enemies the Mexican Mafia and the Aryan Brotherhood, and has an alliance with the Black Guerrilla family to conduct its business. The Nuestra Raza, or Northern Structure, is also a prison gang. The Nuestra Raza could be akin to a AAA farm team for the Nuestra Familia. It has all the same belief systems, ideologies, and it's from the Nuestra Raza, or Northern Structure, that the NF recruits its new members. Another organization recognized as a prison gang is that of the Black Guerrilla family. It's comprised entirely of black inmates. A lot of people believe that the Black Guerrilla family has died out, that it took upon itself a political agenda in the 60s and early 70s, and a lot of people believe that that's died out. However, that's not the case. The Black Guerrilla family is still operating, still recruiting, and in many ways is way ahead of the curve in regards to the other prison gangs, in that it's morphed, changing its name, changing some of its methodologies in order to avoid detection by law enforcement. The last prison gang recognized by the California Department of Corrections is the Texas Syndicate. It was primarily comprised of Hispanic inmates that had migrated to California from Texas. Within the California Department of Corrections, the influence of the Texas Syndicate is very minimal. As a gang investigator at Pelican Bay, I wouldn't expect that very many law enforcement officials on the streets of California would have much contact with them, as they're a very small entity. Not every street gang member would qualify to become a prison gang member. The prison gangs, because of the type of criminal activity that they engage in and because of the way the organizations are structured, only recruit the cream of the crop. I like to think of it in terms of baseball. You have your street gang guy that the law enforcement officer is going to deal with on the streets, and I would equate him to being a single-A ball player. Now, that single-A ball player, once he's convicted in a court and sent to the prisons, operates on a whole different level and a whole different field of play with a different caliber of gang member. And I would equate those guys on our maximum security yards to double-A ball players. The next level would be the guys who act as the intermediaries between the guys on those level 4 yards and the prison gang members, and those would be your AAA ball club guys. Those guys are your prison gang associates. Those are the ones that are being looked at for recruitment to make membership. And then when talking about prison gang members, you're talking about the cream of the crop, the pro ball club.
You know, I was like, you know, there's got to be more. This shoe life is racking up to 15 years here, and it's like, you know what, this isn't much of a life. This is more or less an existence. And the people that I'm believing in, or the regime that I'm believing in, is actually turning out just to have no actual foundation that they've built their structure on.
I started seeing that things that I had held respect for and things that I had actually felt were honorable, they really were nothing but people trying to boost their own egos within the system. They're a bunch of men that were never going home, that had life to do, that were trying to use people like me that did have a date to get them money on the streets, or they send somebody out there to kill somebody just so they could tell one of their partners that they had somebody killed out there. You know, like they had some kind of power. And it didn't really sit well with me that I was going to be used as a puppet like that.
One thing right now with the Mexican Mafia, they're targeting families now because of us dropping out and disassociating ourselves from the prison gang. My ex-wife just got killed. From my understanding, Los Angeles authorities down there, they pretty much have a feeling who it is. Right? And I pretty I know the individual myself, and I'm pretty much assuming that he did commit the crime.
Yeah.
But
and you think you know the particular motive or the reason why he did?
Oh yeah, definitely, because he was my Sally, and he was my foot soldier. His agenda was, he's from the same gang that I was in the streets, but being that he's a youngster, he always wanted to be in good standings with me and other members of the Mexican Mafia. So he's going to go out there and do what he has to do.
Why are you talking to law enforcement?
I want to take this opportunity to try to start to make amends for some of the things that I've done against our society. And secondly is because it really helps